Tonight, we're relaunching one of the most popular projects we undertake before elections, fact-checking those political ads. I'll show you where they're stretching the truth a little bit, where they left out important context, and where they got it right. Fact-checking the political ads. That's our big story tonight. I hope you like this segment because I love digging into these ads to chase down all the details. We plan to do one tonight and another one tomorrow night, and then we'll do more next week. Tonight we're going to focus on an attack ad that's aimed at conservative Republican Joe Kent. It's paid for by the DCCC, that's the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the group that's working really hard to elect Democrats. Kent is in a rematch with incumbent Democrat Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. She's a moderate to conservative Democrat in what used to be a pretty reliably Republican district. The two are holding a debate tonight as both sides fight for votes in Washington's 3rd Congressional District. That's kind of the dark area there on the map. It covers southwest Washington, and it goes north past Centralia and then over west to the coast. Here's why this race matters on a national scale. Right now, the U.S. House of Representatives is controlled by a really small Republican majority. Take a look. It's 220 Republicans, 212 Democrats, and 3 vacancies. That's because 2 Democrats died and 1 Republican resigned. So it's probably really more like 221 for Republicans and 214 for the Democrats. That is a super small margin for Republicans. If Democrats can beat just 4 Republicans while holding all their own seats, they will control the House. And that is huge when it comes to the balance of power on a national basis. Now, Gluesenkamp Perez is a Democrat who's only been in office for about a year and a half, and her party desperately wants to keep that seat. Before she won, Republicans had that seat, as I mentioned, for 12 years. And the election in 2022 between these same 2 candidates was so close. These are the numbers from the Washington Secretary of State's office for that election. Perez won with 160,000 votes, but Kent, he had 157,600, and so he lost by just 2,600 votes. So that is why you are seeing so many ads in this race and why you're going to keep seeing them right up until Election Day. Even you Oregonians who are not going to be voting on the race, your TVs are going to be showing those as well, and it's because our market stretches into southwest Washington. So, sorry, you get to watch them with everybody else. Okay, that's the background. Now, let's take a look at this attack ad, which is not paid for by the Perez campaign. It is paid for by the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee that I told you about earlier. Ready? Here we go.
I voted Republican in the past, and I am not voting for Joe Kent.
He actually pals around with white nationalists and neo-Nazis.
There's no place for that kind of extremism here.
Okay, now let's add a little, in fact, a lot of context here. I don't know anything about the 3 people that you hear from in the ad, but that headline, ooh, that is some skillful political manipulation because it allows you to think kind of whatever you want. Does it mean that he's such an attractive candidate to white nationalists that they filled his meetings to hear about his great plans that they love? Or does it mean that people in his district wanted him to clear the air about whether he and white nationalists actually do believe the same things? When I first saw it and heard the woman say he pals around with white nationalists and neo-Nazis, I really thought that maybe they'd caught him at a barbecue having beers and chuckling with those folks. But no, they don't have that. And I think that headline really does not mean what it leads you to believe that it means, okay? I tracked down the paper that the ad cites. It's the Chronicle. That's a newspaper in Centralia, Washington. They had a reporter at a town hall meeting that Kent held in March of 2022. Now, the story reports that 5 men drove 5 hours from Idaho to attend the meeting in Washington, and another drove down from Tacoma. The article states that the 6 were there to defend another man named Nick Fuentes, who many news outlets had called a white nationalist. Kent was distancing himself from Fuentes, and apparently those guys didn't like it. The paper reported that the men peppered Kent with questions about nationalist beliefs. The paper reported that eventually the gathering of locals actually got a bit hostile towards the men and then cheered when Kent said his platform was about fighting for all Americans regardless of skin color or religion. Earlier in that same week, OPB had reported that Kent did distance himself from Fuentes after publicity that the two had a phone call when Kent first launched his campaign, and that Fuentes had said that he'd used his social media platform to support Joe Kent. Kent repeated that on our Straight Talk show with Laurel Porter in 2022.
When I first announced I was going to run for Congress, I had a wide range of consultants that reached out to me and offered their services. I did speak with Nick once. He talked about doing things with social media, and I just assumed that he was another consultant. I had no idea who Fuentes was or any of the controversy around him. So that's the extent of our association. I know one of my opponents, attempted to link us together, and then since then Fuentes has been attacking me. His goon squad even shows up to many of my events to say that I'm not enough of a white nationalist or something like that, and I'm not a white nationalist at all.
So I think when you look at that headline, you should be thinking that it refers to the men who showed up and peppered Kent with questions. But the ad uses the headline and a comment from a woman in the ad to suggest that he pals around with white supremacists and neo-Nazis. That's a pretty big stretch in my opinion. Okay, let's look at another part of the ad.
Joe Kent hired one of the Proud Boys to work on his campaign.
All right, on this one, yeah, I think they got it right. That is a fact. They sourced the Associated Press from July 27th of 2022. I found this AP story from July 26th, the day before, and hey, I guess we can see where the ad folks got that shot of Kent that they're using. It's right there. This was apparently taken at a rally to support those arrested after the January 6th riot at the Capitol. It's used with an article from an Associated Press reporter who's writing about Kent and other Republicans that experts that they interviewed believed were concerned that they had connections to right-wing extremists. The article cites campaign finance disclosures showing that Kent paid $11,000 to Graham Jorgensen, who was identified as a Proud Boy in a law enforcement report. The Proud Boys, by the way, if you don't know, are an all-male extremist group that led the storming of Congress on January 6, 2021. Kent's campaign told the AP that Jorgensen was a low-level worker who handed out literature, put up signs, and denied he had any current affiliation with outside organizations. So the ad states that Kent hired a consultant who was a member of the Proud Boys. Maybe not a consultant, but according to the AP, the Proud Boy part is accurate. Now, to the last part.
He will ban abortion without exceptions for rape or incest.
Okay, well, that abortion comment is backed up, they say, by our own Straight Talk show from 2022. So let's take a look.
I would move to have a national ban on abortions. I believe life begins at conception. I think we have to have a pro-life culture in our country.
Okay, that's pretty clear. So yes, they got that one right too. Kent says the only exception should be if the mother's life is in danger. And then the final bit of the ad is this.
Very angry, hateful man.
I voted for Republicans for much of my life, but I will never ever vote for Joe Kent.
DCCC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Now, there's no fact checking to do on that last part. Those are opinions. So there you go. The ad is accurate in many parts, although I think it's a big stretch based on the evidence they provide to say that Joe Kent hangs around with white supremacists and neo-Nazis. Staunch conservative with an endorsement from former President Trump. Oh yeah, absolutely. Against abortion? You bet. By the way, we will be doing more of these ad checks tomorrow night. As I mentioned, we're going to look at an attack ad that Republicans have paid to run against Kent's challenger, Gluesenkamp Perez. In the meantime, we do want to hear from you. What do you think of these political ads? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do they give you a chuckle? Do they give you indigestion? Are you counting the days until they leave your TV screen, which is what most of you have told me in the past? Share your thoughts with us, will you? You can email us. The address is thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail. The phone number is 503-226-5090. I look forward to hearing from you.